Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my garden. Today, I want to show you a garden update since I haven't shown you my garden in 2 months since I last planted it, and it's grown in super nicely. We're also going to be doing some garden chores like fertilizing. I'll be doing a bit more planting, cutting off some dead leaves, doing my first harvest, and also creating my own bouquet for my very own flowers, which I'm really excited about. But first, I want to show you just what's growing in here. So these are mini bell peppers, and I've never had a good experience growing bell peppers in my garden. I think I've only gotten like one ever from my garden, so I'm pretty stoked to have so many in here. And this is a banana pepper, which is looking good but a little bit small, and I'll talk more about that later. I also have these teddy bear sunflowers, which have been blooming a lot but look a little funky. I think birds might be eating them, I'm not sure. And this is one of my San Marzano tomato plants. It has a ton of dead leaves, not sure why, but we'll clean that up. And it has a ton of tomatoes, which that part is obviously very exciting. So excited to harvest those. And my regular sandwich slicer tomato is putting out so many tomatoes. I'm also really excited to start harvesting those. And I wanted to show you my sweet Alyssium. It is growing so well for me this year. I've always wanted it to grow like a carpet like this, and it's never grown that way for me. So I'm absolutely stoked by how well all of my flowers are really growing, but especially that one. And let's get into some planting. So this is my second San Marzano tomato plant. Am I getting this in extremely late? Yes. However, sometimes it's never too late. If you have a plant and nothing's growing there anyway, I might as well get it in. What was growing there previously was a sugar snap pea, and I mentioned in my original gardening video that I put out for you guys when I planted it that I wasn't sure how well it was going to do given the heat, and sure enough, it did not do very well. I wasn't able to harvest anything, but that's okay. Honestly, I just feel like sugar snap peas are probably not a great plant to grow in Iowa. I know that they're a cool weather plant, but really here, by the time it starts getting warm, it starts to get pretty warm pretty fast. So I just don't know how well they grow here. Maybe it's like a fall plant, not sure. But I decided to plant another San Marzano tomato because my husband loves to cook. He makes homemade pizzas all the time and uses canned San Marzano tomatoes to make homemade sauce. So I thought that this could be, well, actually he thought that this would be really fun, and I'm happy to plant pretty much anything. I'm not sure that this is going to put out any tomatoes at this point. I planted this in towards the end of July, and obviously you saw what my other San Marzano tomato plant looks like it's already putting out fruit. But again, it's not hurting anything. I already have it, and the space would just be empty otherwise, so might as well experiment. But I do also have to let you guys know, you might be thinking at this point, Sloan, you're really voicing over a lot of this video, and that is because I filmed this entire video and something happened with my microphone, and I'm guessing I just didn't plug it in all the way. I'm not entirely sure. They were definitely both on, but yeah, there was no sound whatsoever. And I actually was going to film this as a chatty garden vlog, and I talked about lots of stuff like the space race, some recent movies I've seen, Bridgerton, and yeah, it's all gone. So if you're interested in a more chatty video, let me know, and I can obviously film something else or do another garden vlog. But yeah, that's why you're seeing me chat right here, but you can't hear anything. So I'm sorry about that. But yeah, now we're just cutting off some dead leaves on my San Marzano tomato plant. I also did the same thing with the little tiny San Marzano tomato plant after I planted it because it was just looking a little crispy as well. Next, I wanted to fertilize my garden, and I've actually never had to fertilize my garden. Usually I just plant stuff and water occasionally and then harvest, and that's it. But this year I bought some cheaper dirt, and I actually found out that the dirt that I bought wasn't great through watching a YouTube video that I will link down below for you guys. And basically they took a bunch of different types of dirt and tested how well a single jalapeno plant grew in each type of dirt. And obviously that's not, a huge experiment with a bunch of different samples, but it did make me think about the dirt that I bought, because the dirt that I bought it did the worst, one of the worst jalapenos in the experiment. And people in the comments were saying that they buy that dirt all the time, but then they just make sure to fertilize on top of it, but I never fertilize. So after watching that video, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I really need to fertilize my garden since I bought that crappy dirt. And I bought it because it was a cute bag with pink stripes, and also it was cheaper. I usually buy Miracle Grow, and I don't remember the name of the dirt that I bought, but it was cheaper than Miracle Grow, so I thought I'd try it out. I do think that the reason why some of my peppers look really small, and I just don't think that I have as big of a bounty of peppers as I usually do at this point in July. I think that it's due to the fact that I needed to be fertilizing because the dirt that I used wasn't as great. However, I have a ton of flowers this year and they look amazing. So I don't really know, but I figured fertilizing is definitely not going to hurt. The instructions on this fertilizer say to shake it in and then kind of mix it in the top inch of soil. But I have a bunch of cocoa mulch on my soil, so I didn't mix it in. I just decided to shake it on. So I'm hoping that works. I've never fertilized outside, but we're just going to have to see in a couple of weeks if suddenly I get a lot more peppers, and then maybe I will assume at least some of it has to do with the fertilizing. So next I decided to harvest this bell pepper, which has a hole in it. I think probably some bug got to it, which means that I probably just waited too long to harvest it, but I was hoping that it would get fully red before I took it off the vine because I don't really like green bell peppers, but this was clearly a mistake in this case. My normal process when I'm gardening is to start in one corner and then just work my way around the whole thing. And up until this point, I wasn't doing that because for the video, I thought that it would be good to like kind of do one thing at a time. But then I was staring at my garden and thinking about everything that needed to be done. So I decided to just do my normal process. So here I am in the first corner of the garden, and I spent a long time deadheading these cosmos. I hadn't deadheaded them at all, and I believe cosmos are a plant that when you deadhead them, they actually flower more. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of the new flowers that come out since I finally deadheaded this plant. While I was deadheading, I saw that one of the peppers was ripe, and so I decided to pull it off. And I don't know what pepper this is, but you can see how teeny weeny it is. Maybe it might be a banana pepper that got a little too ripe. That's probably my guess. But yeah, it was just so small. My peppers did not get very big this year at all, which is super abnormal. Next, I decided to start deadheading my zinnias. And zinnias are for sure considered a cut and come again flower, meaning that the more that you cut them, the more that you get cut flowers or deadhead them, the more flowers you end up getting. So I'm really excited to see what comes out of these. Next, I decided to work on my nasturtium, which I used to pronounce nasturtium. If you watched my previous garden video, I think you heard me say that. And I've now learned that it's called nasturtium. So I'm glad we've got that figured out. And this is a climber. And so I'm just trying to help it grow up this trellis since it was kind of like just expanding beyond the trellis. And I planted this in my garden because it's a beneficial plant, also called a companion plant. And the little orange flowers attract hoverflies, which eat aphids. My everbearing strawberry plant really needed some help. I think because it's in a hanging basket, it loses water much more quickly than the rest of the garden. I'm assuming that's why it has so many yellow leaves, but I'm not really sure. And I don't normally spend this much time cutting off yellow leaves in my garden. I really feel like that is something, it is just time better spent doing that with my inside plants, but all my inside plants look pretty good right now. So I'm just taking the extra time to make my garden look extra good. And if for some reason the yellow leaves were a fungal issue, it's a really good idea to cut them off just in case so it doesn't spread. And these could have been a fungal issue. I'm actually super not sure what was going on, but it was definitely something that needed to be tackled in order to make this look a lot better. If you grow tomato plants, you know how important it is to help them grow up the trellis. If you don't keep up on it, they tend to just grow out instead of up in my experience. And you can go back and kind of force them back through like I'm doing now, but it gets really difficult when the branches get really strong. And so I'm doing this now. It probably would have been better to do this kind of a little bit more as it was growing, but it's never too late to give it a try. So I'm helping my sandwich slicer tomato plant just grow further up instead of out and have a lot more support to support those big, juicy tomatoes. I saved the best for last for this garden chores vlog, and the next activity and the last activity that we're doing is I'm cutting my very first ever flower bouquet from my very own garden. This was such an exciting moment for me. And the colors that I planted in this garden, I wasn't really planning out. I just kind of picked things that were pretty, but I think it turned out so cute in the end. And if you notice me bending down to smell the flowers occasionally, that's because I also didn't plan out any good smells from my garden. I think for a cut flower garden in the future, I'll probably prioritize pretty flowers, but also flowers that smell good. One of the things that I loved in my wedding bouquet was how amazing the flowers smelled, and now I really want to prioritize that. So here we are in the kitchen, and I grabbed a few different potential vases. I didn't really know what kind of size that I would need for this, and so I was just playing around with different things. And I also grabbed some snapdragons from my containers because snapdragons do smell absolutely decadent, and so I definitely wanted to add those in. Plus I felt like the colors really worked with the colors of the plants that I grabbed from my garden as well. So here we have the finished product. I'm so happy with how this turned out, and I can't believe this came from my very own garden. I'm looking forward to doing this every single week. And if you like this video, please leave a flower emoji in the comments so I know you made it to the end, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye.